You've already started recording too. Okay.
Thanks, Ida.
What if that means someone's joining? Because they can't see us, they can only see this, but they can join.
I see.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, 20 already.
So you can see.
Sorry.
Oh, yeah. So this is just extra?
Yes.
No.
32.
Yeah, 50, right? Yeah. I wonder if at 9 o'clock people are going to drop off because of the debate. I mean, it's supposed to be an hour anyway, but.
Hi guys, welcome. I think we're just waiting a few minutes before we get started here. So yes, please grab your snacks, grab your sake, and just get ready. Get ready to have your socks rocked because Sarah's got a really amazing presentation for us today, an event.
Super thrilled to have so many people looking forward to this, and I think we've got a lot of fun for you.
So this is the share now.
Yeah, with chatting.
So we'll probably get started here in just a second. Don't want to punish everybody that's on time. Looks like we've already got a good number of people. Miyuki-san is here. So many friends from all over the country logging on for this. This is so thrilling. Chet's on from the Japan America Society. Hi, Chet. Masai-san is on. Hopefully everybody received the beautiful recipes. My friend Masai from Europe Mutual helped make those beautiful recipe cards for everyone. So I'll tell you what, guys, it's almost 5 after. Let's go ahead and jump in here to sake and soul food. I am so very thrilled to welcome everybody here for this incredibly special event with the partnership between Sake School of America, the Consulate-General of Japan in Atlanta, and the amazing Japan America Society of North Carolina, part of the larger Japan America Society countrywide, who really was the mastermind behind this and helped to bring all parties together. I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Tim Newland, Chairman of the Japan America Society in North Carolina, to say a few words of welcome. Tim?
Thank you, Sarah, and thank you everybody for joining tonight. It's been a very difficult year, and it's sad that we all can't be together. It's great that we are able to do an event like this, and I truly appreciate it. For those of you who I've not met, I am Tim Newland, and as Sarah said, I'm with the amazing Japan American Society of North Carolina, and I'm the chairman currently. I definitely want to thank Sarah and the Consulate-General of Japan in Atlanta, especially with Chef Minagawa, the Sake School of America, and Tipsy for allowing us to actually taste the sake this time around. But we've done a number of events with Sarah over the last few years. The society here in North Carolina is relatively new. Sarah has been a great supporter of the society, and we do appreciate that. We also appreciate all the support that we get from the Consulate-General of Japan in Atlanta. We're just happy that you could all make it here tonight, and I'm sure that you'll enjoy this. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Tim. So a few introductions. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Sarah Guterbach, and I am with New York Mutual Trading Company. We are the largest importers of fine craft sake, or ji-sake, from Japan into the United States, and also an amazing importer of fine foods and cooking utensils, cutlery, amazing stuff for the kitchen, from Japan. I'm very honored to be working with them. I'm also an educator with Sake School of America. I've been teaching with them since 2016, and it's been a real sort of a happy part of the COVID times that we've been able to put together so many of these wonderful online seminars, and just so grateful to all of you for your interest in supporting us in these. We are thrilled to see so many people logging in. A few other special guests tonight. I want to make sure that Miss Melissa Takeuchi has an opportunity to introduce herself. She's going to be helping with some translation today. Melissa, do you want to say hi? Oh, you may be muted. Let me unmute. You have to unmute. Is she there? There she is.
Hear me?
Now I can, yes.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Okay, great. So hi, my name is Melissa. I'm originally from the Atlanta area. I had the privilege of teaching English in Japan for 6 years, where I studied Japanese. And now I work at the Japanese consulate today here in Atlanta. Today I will be helping Chef Taka with any interpretation he may need, although his English is quite well. But it's very happy to be here. Thank you for having us, Sarah.
Thank you. So our very special guest this evening is Chef Taka, who is the personal chef to the Consul General of Japan in Atlanta. I honestly, as many times as we've practiced and worked together on tonight's presentation, I still haven't heard the story about how he landed there. So I'm looking forward to his introduction this afternoon to hear a little more about him.
Hi guys, how are you? This is Yuki. Please call me Taka. So I'm from Asakusa, Tokyo. I came here last November. I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Chef. We are so happy you're here. And I just found out tonight that you're from Asakusa, and I can't believe it because I have something to share with everybody from right next door. So we also have my friend Ida Wang, who is on the call today. She is helping, she's with Sake School of America and LA Mutual Trading Company. So she's logged on from the West Coast, and she's going to be helping to kind of keep track of your comments and your questions. We are going to share some information tonight. We are going to have opportunity to answer your questions, particularly at the end, and we encourage you to use the Q&A function on Zoom or to write something into the chat. And Ida is going to really try to help me out to kind of keep track of all the things that you're sharing. So Ida, thank you for being here. Do you want to say a few words?
No, just hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
Ida writes for our newsletter and writes an article called Sake Splash. She's amazing, an amazing writer and amazing wealth of knowledge about sake. So we're really thrilled to have her. So let's jump in about the things we're going to go over today. The first thing we want to chat a little bit about is just generally about Japanese food culture. We want to talk a bit about the difference between what we would consider comfort foods in Japan and traditional Japanese foods, or washoku. We're definitely going to go through a little bit of what's important to take note of in sake and food pairing. I've put a few slides in here that are particularly relevant to the foods that we'll be tasting today. There's obviously a whole lot more. We could write books on the subject, but I've got a few little key notes for you to take away about sake and food pairing. We are tasting 4 styles of sake. Those were made available to order in advance through Tipsy, which is a wonderful online resource for ordering sake from pretty much anywhere in the United States. And actually, my friend Sachiko Miyagi with Tipsy is on the call today as well, and we'll say a few words at the end. It is not necessary to have sake to enjoy tonight's presentation, but if you do, I will be explaining a little bit about them, and we will, of course, be tasting them with some of the foods tonight that Chef has prepared. Chef has put together 4 incredible Japanese comfort food dishes that have a lot in common with American soul food. So looking forward to discussing those. And of course, we'll have an opportunity for your questions and answers with Chef Taka. And we really want to hear from you about your opinions and your experiences. So really looking forward to jumping right in. So the first question is the difference between washoku and yoshoku. Washoku is the traditional food from Japan. The things that you think of when you think about going out for Japanese food, like sushi, having miso soup, the tsukemono or pickled dishes, anything that sort of is traditionally made in Japan, certain types of ways of preparing fish and rice. The most deeply embedded food culture of Japan is washoku. And it is so deeply embedded in the culture of Japan that it was recently designated a UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage. So it's one of the most special and famous things about Japan is its unique and incredible food culture. Japan's food culture is so deeply embedded because they were so secular and removed from the rest of society until they opened up their doors in 1853. And at that time, there were many visitors from abroad, and there was a whole lot more connection with their neighbors and other countries. And this started to infiltrate and influence Japanese food culture a little bit. And that developed in what is called yoshoku. Yoshoku is still Japanese food, but with a foreign influence. Many of the foods we also consider Japanese, like ramen or gyoza, these are all Japanese foods, but with an influence from another country. So ramen having a major influence from China and Korea, gyoza or Chinese dumplings, potato salad, something we recognize in the United States, and karaage, the fried chicken, which we eat all kinds of fried chicken in the US, but there's also an influence from China with karaage as well. So many yoshoku items, not all of them, but many of them are considered common comfort foods in Japan, the things that you might like to eat, particularly on a cold day, or something that's sort of an easy grab and really fills you up and warms you from the inside out. We also see a lot of these foods being served at izakaya because they go so well with sake. So this brings me to potato salad. The whole theme tonight is potato salad because I am in love with Japanese potato salad. Japanese comfort food has a lot in common with American soul food. So I wanted to pause here. I live in North Carolina. I am south of the Mason-Dixon line. I grew up in Virginia. I've had a lot of opportunities to experience some very famous soul food restaurants in the Southeast, places in Charleston, Asheville, here in Charlotte. Even restaurants that the Obamas once visited because they were so famous for their fried. And I wanted to pause here to make sure that everyone was recognizing sort of this connection between some of these Japanese comfort foods and American soul food. So the karaage that is being prepared tonight, obviously a connection to American fried chicken. There is a pickle dish. We eat tons of pickles at barbecues. Even the greens that are prepared for traditional soul food plate are typically have a lot of vinegar in them. And then we're doing potato salad. And I had to pause here because I am so in love with Japanese potato salad that I made a special trip to the neighborhood next to Asakusa, where Chef comes from. It's the Kapabachi neighborhood. It's the chef's market. And this is where chefs from all over Japan go. and they buy cooking utensils and ingredients and knives and stuff to, outfit their restaurants. It's basically like a large area, a shopping area filled with stores for restaurants. And it's also where you can buy the models of food. And I love Japanese potato salad so much that I bought a model of Japanese potato salad that I keep in my house. It's the most unusual thing I have in my house, and it's the most treasured thing I have from Japan, if you can believe it. So one of the things that's interesting about Japanese food is there's a real tremendous dedication to making things just absolutely delicious. We joke about, Emeril Lagasse saying, kick it up a notch, right? And I think that's something unique to Japanese food, is that they will take things like potato salad and they'll make it uniquely their own. And one of the ways that they do that is by using Kewpie mayonnaise, a very famous type of mayonnaise. I actually was discussing this with my friend Masai today, and heard that in the United States, actually, there's a lot of dialogue about Kewpie mayonnaise, because some Kewpie mayonnaise is made in America and it's made more like American mayonnaise. It's not even as similar to real Japanese mayonnaise. And so this is one of the things that makes Japanese potato salad a little different. And I actually organized a surprise today for Chef and everyone at the consulate, because I invited my friend Tom Patasha here. He is on the panel. Tom is a local food influencer. He is very involved in food culture here in Charlotte. He's involved with lots of restaurants. He's all over Instagram all the time. And he has actually hosted mayonnaise tasting competitions. So what those of you who are not in the South have to understand is that those of us here have some very strong opinions about mayonnaise. And some people, like Melissa, I believe, thinks that Duke's is the only mayonnaise that should ever be eaten. And there are other people like Tom, who I think believes that Hellmann's is the only mayonnaise that should ever be eaten. So I decided to do a little contest, and I actually prepared Chef's potato salad. So I used his recipe, and I made 3 different versions of it. One with Hellmann's, one with Duke's, and one with real Japanese Kewpie mayonnaise. And I have invited Tom here so that he will use his expertise to taste all 3 and tell us which one he thinks is the best. So I did the recipe exactly the same way as Chef Taka, but the only difference is the mayonnaise. So when we come to the point where we're tasting this, we're gonna ask Tom his opinion. So by that time, he'll have tried all of them. He's also gonna taste the mayonnaise by itself. But I did wanna ask Chef about the mayonnaise and what makes American mayonnaise different from Japanese mayonnaise, and what does he think about all of this to do about mayonnaise?
I think main ingredients are almost same, but Duke's made by egg yolk and egg white. But I had Kewpie mayonnaise made by only egg yolk. And I think Duke's is a bit mellow, and Kewpie has more flavor and more sour other than US ones.
Yeah, so yeah, exactly. So American style, I think Hellmann's is the same, has both egg yolk and egg white, whereas Kewpie's only egg yolk. So the flavor is stronger with Kewpie.
Yeah, so the yolks make it richer. Yeah, there's a richer taste to the Kewpie mayonnaise. And what's really cool about that too is that balance of the rich taste from the egg yolk and having a bit more acidity helps to balance out the fat of that. And so this is something that brings us further down the rabbit hole of Japanese food culture and their appreciation. I did want to ask Ida, if you don't mind, as we move forward, would you run our poll real quick? We have a question for all of you about the mayonnaise, if you don't mind. So what is your preference? I'm wondering how many people even know what Duke's mayonnaise is. I had a friend from the North tell me she'd never heard of it, and I was like, what?
I'm seeing a lot of the numbers kind of change rapidly, but I think there's definitely a clear winner here.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fans of Kewpie. If you have never tried Kewpie, guys, I highly recommend you find it. It's readily available in your local Asian market, and even some larger grocery stores are now stocking it in their international section. So some of you haven't answered. We can leave it up for another minute. Otherwise, we can come back to this. So let's talk about the aroma and flavor relationship and a little bit about food culture in Japan in general. So I have had the pleasure with my work to visit Japan on numerous occasions as an adult. I lived in Japan for a little while as a teenager. But as I got into the sake industry and frequently went to Japan to visit breweries and to visit sake restaurants, sake shops, izakaya, sake bars, and to have dialogue with chefs and sake producers about food and sake culture in Japan, I started to notice some clear patterns there that were really different than the way we view food in the United States. So the first part has to do with the way that many chefs talk about aroma and flavor. In the United States, we grow up saying that the smells from the kitchen are so divine, that the food smells really good while it's being cooked. And then we talk about how good it tastes while we're eating it. But in Japan, there seems to be a little bit more of an understanding that flavor is so integrally related to the nose. That when you speak to a chef about a dish, they'll often talk to you about both. And they'll say, well, the aroma of the dish is very mild, but the flavor is very strong. The flavor is very high. Or maybe vice versa. They'll say the flavor is very delicate, but it has a very strong aroma. Or maybe they're very balanced in both. The other thing is sort of this clear understanding of the way the tongue works. So in Japan, everybody is sort of raised with a clear understanding of what umami is. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about umami as the fifth taste as we move on. But I wanted to ask chef's opinion about it as well, because when you think about aroma and flavor coming together in balance, and when you also talk about how all the flavors that you notice on the palate, sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and then that wonderful, mysterious fifth taste, umami, that so many Americans struggle to understand, when you think about those things coming together, you have this incredible experience where everything just sings. When you're dining, and this is a phrase that particularly Japanese men will say, but when they eat something really delicious, they'll go, oh, umai, it's so delicious. And I think it's becoming more popular for women to say it now, but when I was younger, it was something more that a gentleman would say, that it was something was so delicious. The other thing that is interesting here is that in Japan, many, many dishes are meant to be enjoyed by themselves. You know, in the United States, when you go to a soul food restaurant, you get a big plate covered with everything all at once. But in Japan, you're more likely to have small dishes, you know, like this one, that you would, share with a couple people and enjoy exclusively by itself. Even when you think about the way a bento box is made, where there's little separate compartments for each food, you don't run into that weird problem where, little Johnny is upset because mom let the peas touch the mashed potatoes, right? Everything is in its own special place. So before I move into more of the technical definition of umami, I wanted to ask Chef his opinion on these, sort of the difference in America and in Japan, and what does he find is the relationship of smell and taste and umami to the experience of the diner.
So I think umami is one of 5 senses of taste: sweet, sour, salty, bitter, and umami. In the dictionary means delicious taste. What is delicious taste? I think umami comes from many different acids. Food acids are other for taste, softer and more round. So I think umami can make perfect meals. If there are no umami, no perfect.
That's a really
I think
interesting
you said it
comment.
pretty clearly. Say it better than that. Yeah.
And when we talked last time, Chef mentioned as well, Melissa, I thought this was a great point, that umami is sort of the thing that threads together all the tastes. So, you know, in America, we really understand sweetness, we understand sour, bitter, and salty. Umami is the thing that brings them all together, where the whole truly becomes greater than the sum of its parts. You know, that it's the thing that takes everything up a notch and makes it all taste even better. With umami, you taste everything more, right? So even, you know, and you were talking about the values, right? That, you know, you can have a value for one for salty, a value for one for lemon, or for sour, value for one for bitter, and a value for one for sweetness. And when you have umami, it adds up to 7. Right? Like it's not like 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, it all becomes like 7. And I think that's a really interesting idea to consider, how much umami adds to the whole delivery of the meal. So when it comes to defining, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I just, when I first tried to get the explanation of umami from Chef, he described it to me as the other 4 flavors are like little boxes, and they sort of separate from each other. And umami is the makes it together as a circle, and it brings it all together, you know, joins it together where it's not sort of hitting each other like a box would. That's what makes it so smooth and brings it and makes it 7 as opposed to just 5.
Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool. So when we talk about defining umami, some people like to describe umami as an earthy taste, or they use the term savory. And you know, there are definitely savory foods that can have an earthy quality. But one of the reasons why this started to become a common way of describing umami is because people would use the difference between a raw mushroom and a cooked mushroom, a roasted mushroom, to describe umami. You know, because a raw mushroom just tastes like fungus, but a roasted mushroom has this rich, delicious character, right? That's very savory, still earthy, but far more spreading delicious than a raw mushroom. The issue with that, though, is that umami is very high in a lot of things that would never be described as earthy. Ripe cheeses, very ripe cheeses can have a lot of umami. And one of my favorite things to use is very ripe tomatoes. If anybody's ever had the pleasure of growing tomatoes in their backyard, there's a super huge difference between buying a hothouse tomato from the grocery store versus going to the farmer's market or going to your own backyard and buying a beautiful vine-ripened tomato that just explodes with flavor in the mouth. So umami is a sensation of spreading or lingering deliciousness in the mouth. It's really, truly a flavor enhancer. And just as Melissa and Chef emphasized, it is the thing that sort of binds all the other flavors together and takes them to a higher level. So let's talk about how that works with sake. So umami can be a really difficult thing to pair with wine. Wine can have a lot of acidity and a lot of astringency. And when you pair a dry wine with high astringency and high acid with a food that's high in umami, the umami clashes with the wine like sugar. So it makes the wine taste even more astringent and more acidic. And it actually can contribute an additional taste, a tertiary taste that's sort of metallic or almost like a medicinal kind of characteristic that a lot of people find unpleasant. Because sake is so much lower in acid and doesn't have any bitter astringency, and also because sake itself is high in umami, it actually will work together with the umami in the food and enhance it. It takes that even further. The higher the umami of the sake, the more it will actually enhance the flavor of the food. And I find it really interesting to note that generally speaking, lower grades of sake, the entry-level sakes like junmais, honjozos, even some futsushu or tokubetsu sakes, typically have a lot more umami than the higher grades where the rice is polished more. And this is because when you polish the outer layers of the rice away, you take away proteins that ultimately would break down into the amino acids that help to create the umami in sake. One of the beauties of the umami in sake is that it can be a unique combination of different amino acids, and then you have a unique combination of amino acids in the foods that create their umami. So by combining umami-driven sake with umami-driven food, you end up with these even further complex combinations of these amino acids that just take the flavor profile into incredible and unique directions. Saltiness in food makes the sake even more fruity. So salt will enhance fruitiness. It does the same thing in wine. It also makes sake seem less astringent or acidic. So, sake tends to be very low in astringency, but if there's a little bit of phenolic astringency in the sake, that will be far lessened by the salt. And then salt is a huge umami enhancer. This is the reason why sake matches so well with soy sauce. When you think about having sushi, and you have this beautiful rice and beautiful fish and just a little bit of soy sauce with it, having that with sake helps to sort of, bring out the richness in the sake. The sake diminishes fishiness. There's this incredible thing that happens. So anything salty and anything with umami goes really, really well.
Could you go back one slide really quick?
Yeah.
I think Chris wanted to see that. All right, I hope that was enough time, Chris.
So again, salt will make the beverage more fruity, less astringent and acidic, and then salt enhances umami. So I'm always telling, I'm the preacher out there, broadcasting, please try sake with potato chips or with popcorn. My favorite thing of all is with popcorn. And I don't know why, Ida, will you double check? Tom is having trouble. Will you admit him? I think he got kicked out. Were you able to get into the waiting room?
I've got meetings.
Oh, I don't know what's going on with that. Well, I'm on, so when it's time to talk, you can come over here. So this brings us to sourness and acidity. So it's really important to note that not all the acids in sake taste sour. A lot of times we talk about acidity and all we think about is a sour taste. It's definitely what we learn to look for when we taste wine blind and we're talking about the measure of acidity. We're thinking about how sour the wine is. But sake itself generally is not 7 times less sour than wine. And the acid complex includes those amino acids that create the beautiful umami sensation. And some of those can have a savory character, some can be slightly bitter, some can even come across as salty or sweet. So when we think about sourness or acidity in a food, it mitigates the acidity of another. So when we talk about some of the famous food pairings in history, Sauvignon Blanc, for instance, and goat cheese, Sauvignon Blanc being very high in acid, goat cheese being very high in acid, tasting those two together mitigates the acidity of one of the other. So the high acid of a Sauvignon Blanc would make that high acid goat cheese seem more nutty. The high acid goat cheese would make the high acid wine seem more fruity. Sake being far less sour than wine will actually make the zing of pickles pop. So you get a little bit of this sort of opposite subtract thing here where acidic foods will make sake seem sweeter and sweeter sake can make acidic foods seem more sour. Acidity also cuts fat. So higher acid sakes can be fantastic with heavier foods like meats and cheese. And if you're into that type of pairing, we highly recommend that you look for Yamahai or Kimoto sakes. We have a Yamahai tonight that has beautiful acidity in it that's going to be delicious with many of the foods. Last comment I have here on food pairings is that sake has a unique ability to be served at different temperatures. So whereas wine is generally going to be served cold for white wine or sort of a room or cellar temperature for red, you could have a wide range of temperatures to play with sake, allowing you to match hot foods with hot sakes. This balances the body, and it can be a really amazing experience. We're especially looking forward to this during COVID times because we have the opportunity now to eat outside, have hot food and hot sake together. These are the two most popular temperatures for serving warm sake in Japan. Nurukan is, you'll notice, just above body temperature. It's sort of like almost like a tepid bath. And then Atsukan is a much warmer level. But still, I think a lot of people overheat sake in the United States, and it's something that people should be cautious about. When you're making these pairings, thinking about regional cuisines can be a great thing. Maybe pairing sakes from foods from northern Japan with foods from northern Japan. I like to focus on the weight and richness of the food and sort of balancing out the other, thinking about bigger or umami-driven sakes with heavier dishes, or pairing light sakes with lighter fare. You can also think about how opposites attract. So there are some amazing light dry sakes, tanrei, karakuchi sakes, or styles of sake that are made in, say, Niigata, Japan, for instance, that are very delicate. And those can actually offset fried foods. Niigata style sakes and tempura, for instance, can be an incredible match. We also want to remind people, one of the subtitles of this seminar was anything but sushi, right? So they eat way more than just fish and sushi in Japan, and sake goes with it all. So we definitely encourage you guys to try as many sakes with as many foods as you can. So it's time to taste really quickly. I want to blow through the sakes for those of you who have them to try. The first sake of the evening is meant to be a match for the karaage. And this is a really fun little cup sake from a producer called Amabuki, which is located in Saga, Japan. It's called Strawberry Skyline because this cup has the New York skyline on it, and you can see little floating strawberries in it. But it also alludes to the fact that this brewery uses a yeast that was isolated on strawberry blossoms in order to ferment the sake. It truly is a classic Junmai Ginjo style, having some lovely fruit and floral notes. The slightest hint of sweetness, making it very, very juicy. So it really sort of lights up the palate. We think the juiciness of this sake is going to go beautifully with the karaage. Nice mouth-filling, soft, delicious, and somewhat floral sake. The second sake that we're going to have is kind of a sister to this. This is called Manhattan Marigold. And this is one of the Yamahai sakes that I was telling you about. This is a sake that's produced using more of an old-fashioned technique to make the yeast starter, which allows for a higher acid balance in the sake. There's a much higher level of lactic acid in this sake, which makes the sake much more age-worthy. The sake was actually intentionally aged for a little while at the brewery, adding to its golden color. And then it's also been held back a little bit in the market, giving it even more depth of flavor. As the sakes age, you get this beautiful vanilla, almost maple kind of complex going on in the mouth, along with this delicious mouth-quenching acidity. This is specifically meant to go with the nukazuke. And there's some really fascinating things about the nukazuke, the pickle dish that are being made, which makes a pickle that is very high in umami, as well as having some really unique flavor characteristics that I think this sake will be a beautiful match for. I will also point out that this sake can be gently warmed or allowed to come to room temperature, whatever you'd like. You may be drinking it cold tonight, which is fantastic, but definitely one I recommend that you try warm, and also one that I think is going to be good with many of the dishes today. So not just the nukazuke, very, very food friendly. We then have one of my first favorites. I should be cautious with what I say on this because I don't know if you noticed in the chat, my dad has logged in today. So I'm not sure if he knows that when we were living in Japan that this was available in vending machines, and it might have been available on my way to school. Maybe once on a bad day. But this is a very, very famous sake in Japan. The original gold can. This is the first namazake that was made commercially available. It's from Niigata. Funaguchi actually translates as the mouth of the press. So this is a sake that's much like going up to the tank right after the sake is done and just pouring it into a cup and tasting it, wholly unpasteurized and also undiluted. So you'll notice it's 19% alcohol. This sake has a little twinge of sweetness to it, and I'm very excited about pairing it with the pork belly dish because it also has a little bit of sweetness being made either with mirin or with a little bit of a sugar in the sauce to allow it to kind of stew. Very complex flavors there. This is a rich, bold sake that is fantastic with all kinds of meat dishes. It's also amazing with really rich ramen. Lots of things, lots of versatility here for this sake. And the last one is actually a daiginjo sake. And I'll just pause here. This was, just as this was the first commercially available namazake on the market in Japan, this was the first commercially available daiginjo. So daiginjo is one of the highest grades of sake. It means that the rice was very highly polished, and they didn't have the technology to polish the rice in order to make ginjo sakes until 1933 when the vertical rice polishing machine was invented. So in 1950, this producer, Kamotsuru, which is located in a really cool little neighborhood in Hiroshima called Saijo, where you can visit many breweries at once. They were the first to release this out to the public. It's quite famous. And if you look closely, I can't show you on camera, but it does have beautiful golden cherry blossoms inside. So food grade, real gold, gold blossoms float in the bottle. And if you get one in your glass, it's considered good luck. Very floral, a drier style of sake, particularly because it has a little bit of added alcohol. It's going to have this lovely lift on the palate. It shouldn't run over the top of the more delicate flavors of the potato salad, but should have just enough of a cut to cut through the mayonnaise. So that brings us to an opportunity to watch our first recipes. So I'm going to share with you the karaage. And after this, I'm going to take down the show for a minute and we will taste with chef and see what everybody thinks about the pairing with the first sake. So please enjoy. Very special thanks to everyone at the consulate for making these videos because they are really great. So just as a reminder, the match for this is that Amabuki Junmai Ginjo cup. I am going to stop sharing. And I just want to hear what everybody on the panel thinks.
About the karage or the sake?
Both. I think they're tasting in Atlanta. We bought some karaage from a local izakaya, and I'm tasting it with the strawberry cup. I think it's yummy.
Yep. We're tasting this. We're supposed to do this, right? And smell.
Yes, I got ahead of myself. I was already eating. Yeah, so when you're tasting the sake, you want to start by smelling it.
Oh, it smells really good. What do you
Like
smell?
floral and fruity.
Yeah, you really do smell. You really can't smell the floral and the fruit. Mm.
Give it a really good swirl, and you should release a whole lot more aroma.
And you mentioned last time we were using sake cups, and you mentioned recommend we use wine cups, and I agree. You can really smell it better.
It's a huge difference. So a lot of people like to use, smaller cups, kind of like this to drink out of. And they are traditional in Japan. I have a ton of them. I have little cups like this, even fun, cute ones with smiley faces inside. Or the more traditional janome no kikichoko, which is used for tasting. But it is a lot harder to get aroma out of them. So I like to try as many, particularly colder sakes, out of the wine glass. After you swirl it, you probably notice some deeper aromas erupting out of the sake, a little bit more of these sort of savory notes and some rice notes, maybe even a little bit more floral notes. One other trick I like to suggest is if you pop your hand on top of the glass like this for just a moment, and then give it a swirl, and then bring it up to your nose and smell again. You'll really get beautiful, beautiful floral notes even more. The flowers and fruit start to really pop, right? It's fun. Yeah, tanoshirane. Yeah, so fun. So take a sip and just try it on its own. You really get a sense.
I have a really good question. Are you guys drinking chilled or room temperature?
They're chilled, yeah. So my sakes are chilled. I brought them out of the refrigerator a little early though, so that they would not be ice cold. When sake is too cold, you can't taste it very well. So you want it to be a little above the temperature in your refrigerator for chilled sakes. And actually, like I said, some of them can come up in temperature even more, like the Yamahai can be served warm. So after you taste the sake, then I recommend trying the food and then going back and trying the sake again. And you'll notice that the food and the sake interact with one another. Our karaage has a very spicy mayonnaise with it, which changes the pairing a little bit. But I think you were serving yours with lemon. Did you serve yours with lemon?
Yeah, we put lemon, and then we also have this yuzu kosho. It's very, very hard to see, but it's
And it's Duke's mayonnaise.
He's gonna try it with Duke's.
Oh, Duke's mayonnaise. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
I'm interested in what you think. Taka-san, I wish I was eating your karaage.
Thank you.
Oh, it's really good.
Yeah.
Yokata. I'm so happy.
Fruitier to you? It tastes fruity to me, like the salt or something. I think that you mentioned maybe. And it tastes lighter though.
The saltiness in the marinade of the chicken definitely brings out more of the fruitiness in the sake.
Yeah, I can see that. Does it taste fruitier to you? Yeah.
And I just tried it again with the Yamahai, the next sake. So I'm excited to hear what everybody thinks about that too. Let me bring up our next video so people can learn. Let me see here. Here we go. See if I can bring this up again. I'm sorry. Sometimes sharing is hard. Here we go. Okay. So let's learn about the nukazuke. And I have a lot of questions here, Chef. This is really, really interesting. You know, in the United States, you know, pickles are usually, you know, pickling spice and vinegar, sometimes sugar, sometimes hot spice. And this is, I think this is a really very special way of making pickles in Japan. So I'm looking forward for people to hear this. Okay, so nukazuke. We've already got questions in the chat about it. I'll let Ida share the questions, but I also wanted to bring up something that I learned when we spoke last time, which was fascinating to me. So in the recipe, you create the nuka first. So nuka is the powder or the bran that comes off rice when it's polished. And what you're actually seeing in this video is what's called aka nuka, or the red bran, the brown, the outer layers of the rice as it comes out. There's also shiro nuka, white nuka, which is used for other things as well. A lot of like rice crackers and things are made, but you saw sort of the brown outer part of the bran in the video. And so you make the nuka and you allow that to sit for about a week, right? Before you do anything else. And after it's ready, after a week, then you can put the vegetables inside for several hours, correct? And then you rinse them and serve. So I had asked, well, how many times can you use the same nuka? Like how many times can you use it? Chef, can you please explain? This is gonna blow your mind.
If you maintain well, so you can use many times, maybe your grandchildren can use them.
Because the way to maintain the nuka is that you should be stirring it every day and that you should add those vegetable scraps as needed. And he said if you keep it well maintained, keep it in a cool, dry spot, you can cover it lightly with a paper towel or something. Keep it that way, you can use it, he said, for 400 years. So you can certainly use it for a long, long time.
So this brought to mind, there's actually an area behind Shinjuku Station in Tokyo that's very famous for many food stalls. And it's an area that a lot of people go to eat, you know, skewered, like so yakitori and other things. And there are sauces that are used. There are families that have been making sauces for the yakitori in that area that have kept those sauces, the mother of those sauces, going for over 100 years. So it's the same thing with the nuka. So when you say store it, you can keep it, you don't have to keep it in the refrigerator. You can keep it in like your pantry.
Yeah, in room temperature is okay.
Don't put it in the refrigerator.
But if you cannot mix every day, put refrigerator.
Yeah, so
And
it
you
will go
feed it.
bad if you're not stirring it every day.
And you feed it scraps, right? So people who like to do things like compost, like they can use the peel of their cucumber or the peel from carrots or things like that to put inside, right? Yeah,
Yeah.
that's so cool. And do you have to every so often take out the old scraps, or do they just stay inside the?
Maybe after 3 or 4 days, you can remove and put another one.
To get
Chef-
fresh flavor. One thing Chef mentioned is that for your first batch of nuka, that it depends on the weather, the weather outside. So it's either 7 to 10 days, and the warmer it is, the less time it'll take. So hot days, it's going to be probably just 7 days, and cooler days is going to be closer to 10. Basically, just taste it, and if it has that sour taste, that's when it's ready.
Wow, it's amazing. So talk a little bit about the difference between this kind of pickle that you're eating, the nukazuke, and say the style of pickles that we purchase in the United States that are sort of soaked in a vinegar base. Yeah, I'm interested in the difference there.
Even in Japan, we have many types of pickles, not only nukazuke, but also, for example, senmaizuke. It's sweet and sour. Also, senmaizuke made by kabu.
Oh, it's made by a certain type of
Yeah,
turnip.
turnip.
Yeah,
Ah,
kabu turnip.
And some pickles is very sour, and many types of pickles in Japan. And also US ones, it's vinegar. I like them. And
Do you think Japanese pickles, once you open the pickles, they should be eaten very soon?
yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a difference too. And this could be related to preservatives, but I noticed in Japan also that a jar of pickles in America, because of all the vinegar, you can keep it in the fridge for a while, but once you open a packet of Japanese pickles, you really should eat it. For example, the nuka-zuke pickles that we're going to be eating, these, I mean, they really should be eaten within an hour or two after you take them out. They're not going to go bad, but the flavor is just really going to be lost if you wait too long.
so I am trying the Yamahai, and I got some little pickled carrots. They're slightly sweet and a little bit spicy. And then I also got some just little pickle chips. They're like a little snack size. And they are, they're more of a classic dill pickle. They're a little more salty and a little bit more sour. And I gotta say, this Yamahai sake and the salty sour, this is so delicious. Like I'm so excited by it. I highly recommend the Yamahai, that Yamahai cup. It's so good. And it was also very good with the karage. If you try go back to taste the fried chicken, I recommend it. So let me pull up the next video for everybody.
Before we go forward, do you mind if I just do a little
questions? Yes, please. Sorry.
So are there any vegetables that you shouldn't put in, like maybe to pickle or for the scraps?
If you want many types of vegetables, you can use, for example, even tomato is okay. like leek, onion, and eggplant.
He even said you can do boiled eggs.
Mm.
You can do a lot of things, but he did mention that depending on the vegetable, it may take a little longer. So like with the vegetables we did today with carrots and daikon radishes and everything, it's either peeled or the skin is quite thin. So it only takes 3 to 6 hours. But if you did a tomato, for example, especially cherry tomatoes, because the skin's so thick, it may take quite a bit longer. How long do you think it would take?
12 hours.
Maybe even 12 hours. So it is possible, but the time is going to be a little bit longer. Yeah.
Right. So it's about kind of like experimentation, I guess, too.
Really, yeah.
And they wanted to know, so you keep the base covered, right? Like loosely covered. It's not going to dry out or anything?
Okay.
We should not put lid on nuka because nuka is still alive, so they are breathing.
Oh,
So
free
don't-
breathing.
Yeah. No, you don't put it tight, nothing tight. Like you can lay a paper towel across it. Don't keep it closed because it's a living thing, you know, like someone
Right.
mentioned sourdough. So
Is it like is it lactic acid bacteria that's working in it? Is it the lactic acid bacteria?
Yeah.
Yeah? Oh,
Mhm.
cool.
Yes.
And thank you. And I know we said that we can reuse the nuka, but like, how do you know when it goes bad?
Sorry. Maybe smell change and taste going bad. Just try to eat.
yeah, I guess it's like milk,
It's,
right?
yeah, now it's very difficult to say which situation is bad, but maybe you can feel.
Yeah, like if you know the actual smell is supposed to have, yeah, exactly. So you would know. It's sort of like milk, I guess. Yeah. Mhm.
All right. You heard it from the master. Thank you.
All right.
Okay.
Do you like it with the
Can I show something,
sake?
Sarah?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's really good. I'm trying to show how delicately Chef cut these cucumbers. I'm amazed at how, I mean, I know he's a chef, but can you see how like delicately these are cut?
Oh, that's beautiful.
it's so-
yes.
But it's not slices. It's just to get a better texture. It's just to make it look, it's just, you know, you get into the cucumber more, so the nuka, you can taste the flavor of the nuka. The other side too. He's so impressive. It's amazing to me.
So many more American chefs have been studying in Japan to learn knife work. This is something else that's been changing in American food culture, because in Japan, they make knives that can cut down to the cellular level. And they've actually realized that there's different ways of cutting vegetables where if you cut in the right way, you don't release bitterness or astringency. So yeah, I'm sure Chef is really talented with a knife. I think that's incredible. So let me share the next video here. So again, the match for the Nukazuke was the Manhattan Marigold. Are you guys seeing my screen? Good. So let's play the pork belly. So we are
All
drinking
right.
this. It looks so good. We are drinking this one, as I mentioned, with the Kikusui gold can. And I have some questions for Chef, and I'm interested in what our guests have to ask. But I noticed that you were taking away the extra fat after it was in the refrigerator. And there are many people in the United States, especially I think in the South, who might have grown up where their mom kept a coffee can or a pan next to the stove. And when they made bacon, they would take all the fat and they would pour it into the coffee can. And then they would keep that fat next to the stove so they could use it to make eggs or cornbread or anything else later on. And so one of my questions was, what do they do with the fat in Japan? Do they keep it to cook with, or what do they, are there any traditions in Japanese families with the fat?
Maybe normally we don't use, but I can recommend. It's for fried rice. It's very good.
Oh, that sounds delicious.
And also this lard you can put in frying oil.
Oh, you can add it. You can add it with fry it. Use it to fry something else.
Right. Yeah, no, that's so there's definitely a tradition of using it to grease a pan in the United States. But yeah, that's a great idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so this is one dish that takes a little bit of time, to prepare, I think. And I noticed that the cut of the pork is a little bit thick. So I'm interested in the texture to you, like what is the texture and flavor like? Sometimes, so I have a little a bun here that we bought that is got the pork belly, but what they did is I think they made the belly and then they also grilled it so that it would have a crispy texture. So it's a little different than I think the texture of what you're eating. So I'm interested in the difference.
I mean, I personally think that the texture is like the fat part is usually quite like melty, like toro.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then the meat part, it's very similar to like kind of like short rib, like it has that similar kind of grain to it. Yeah, personally I like it. It's really good. It is a lot of fat though, so you have to really like the fat a lot.
It's very rich.
Yes, yeah. So I thought it was amazing that they used maple syrup and maple sugar because that pairs perfectly with this kind of dish. It's traditionally already like a sweet soy sauce kind of thing, and using that maple will elevate it for sure.
And I actually asked Chef about that because when I saw the recipe, I thought maybe in Japan they might use mirin. Mirin is a sweeter sort of concentrated style of sake that's used. It can actually be aged really well. Sometimes people will drink aged mirin, but you can also obviously use it for cooking. It's a very key ingredient often in like teriyaki sauce. But mirin is hard sometimes to find in the United States, especially good quality mirin. So I think Chef suggested using the syrup and the sugar instead, and along with an inexpensive sake to make the sauce. Is that right?
Yes.
I know you mentioned that it's difficult to find authentic mirin. Yeah, you can find mirin flavored sauces, but it's a different taste. So that's why he recommends in that case, just go ahead and use the sugar, maple syrup, whatnot, and then a cheaper sake.
May I ask if you were
I'd like to mention.
Oh, go ahead.
So I just wanted to mention, so personally, I'm not a big fan of pork, to be honest, but Chef was kind enough to make chicken for me, and it is delicious. So just know that you can use this recipe. We have some spicy mustard, also some karashi mustard. And the chicken is just delicious. He used chicken thighs. Yeah, chicken thighs. And it's really good. I mean, of course, I'm not getting the fat skin on the chicken, and it's delicious. It goes great with the sake.
Can you tell us about the mustard? How is the mustard different than sort of typical mustard here?
What do you think about karashi?
Between US.
アメリカと
Mhm. What do you think?
Japanese mustard doesn't have salt. Maybe I think not so salty. Like
Wow.
Dijon mustard, like it's salty. And when I eat beef, I put only the Dijon mustard.
Mm.
So, but Japanese one more spicy and no salt.
It's definitely more spicy. It
I
really
know.
gets you at the back of the palate. Yeah.
It has like horseradish in it, I think.
Mhm.
And that's why you just need a dab, just a little bit. It's not like yellow mustard or Dijon mustard. You just need a small dab of it, and it really completely changes the flavor, to be honest.
Yeah, a little goes a long way. Yeah, I mean, sometimes people are sensitive to like wasabi, and if you're sensitive to wasabi, I think you should be very careful with Japanese karashi
Yes.
mustard. It's ちょっと危ない. A little bit, can be a little dangerous. So, yeah.
Right here.
What do you think of the pairing? Do you notice the sweetness in the sake going with the sweetness in the with the pork? Is it a nice match?
Yeah, umami from pork and umami from sake. This is very good best match. So it makes kakuni taste sweeter.
Ah,
It really
sweet.
does.
That's so interesting. Thank you. Cool. So let's see, I'm gonna try to play our last little video here, and then hopefully Tom has tried all of the potato salad and can give us his opinion on those two. So again, for the butakukuni, the pork belly, our pairing was this funaguchi can. And now my darling, my baby, the potato salad. So one of the ways that I fell in love with Japanese potato salad is that I think I mentioned that I like to go to izakaya. Izakaya means a good place to buy or drink sake. And a lot of times they have, you will often order many small plates of dishes to share at an izakaya. And many times when you go to izakaya in Japan, or even just to like a craft sake bar, they'll give you a little treat. They'll give you a little something free when you first sit down. And it's actually not uncommon for them to give you a little potato salad or sometimes like a fish salad or something like that to taste at the beginning. And that was how I discovered Japanese potato salad. So I am really excited to hear what you all think of this. We're drinking this with the Daiginjo sake. And I think this is a really unique pairing because we often think about Daiginjo sake and sashimi or really fine, Edo sushi, like really nice quality sushi. And usually is what we think of with Daiginjo sake. But I think that this is actually a really delicious pairing. I actually had tried this earlier, and I think it works very, very well. So I'm interested in your opinion. And then we have to ask my special friend for his opinion on the mayonnaises and what he thinks is the best.
What do you think of the flavor of the sake?
It's ripe melon.
Yeah, it smells like ripe melon. It does. It does.
And a bit dry and clear flavor.
Yeah.
Flavor is very clear.
Very clean. Yeah, you can tell.
Did anybody get gold flakes in their cup?
No.
Not me, not yet.
No.
But it's that clear flavor. So this is a little bit like that opposites attract thing I was talking about, like Niigata sake and the like lightly fried dishes. This is a sake that is very clean tasting. And when you know, the potato salad is a little bit rich, but it's also not strong flavors, right? It's rich, but it's not overpowering. And I think it's a really amazing, amazing combination. The sake actually enhances all of the things in the potato salad. And actually, Melissa mentioned this when we were talking the other day, and I thought it was a really good point. Sometimes in American potato salads can be a little muddy to where, you know, you taste the American potato salad and it just all tastes the same. But Japanese potato salad has this really amazing sort of quality where you taste each individual part together, but then you also taste it all together. And I think that's a really amazing thing. And the sake actually highlights some of those flavors when you taste it. So.
What do you think of the combination?
Between potato salad.
Yeah.
It's good. And this sake, taste disappeared soon. So now I can enjoy potato salad.
That's true. It really does cleanse your palate. It really, the heavy kakuni taste, you know, drinking this sort of gets that out of your mouth, and then you have this. Personally, I think this is my favorite combo. I really like the potato salad with this daiginjo. It's really good.
So happy to hear it. So I think Tom has tasted everything, and I'm interested. So I got to tell you, so I set up the potato salad, and then I set up mayonnaise for him to taste. And so he had a blind mayonnaise tasting, and he's such an expert that he immediately went, it's this, 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 and he was exactly right. I had put them in alphabetical order. So it was first Duke's, and then Hellman's, and then the Kewpie, and he immediately nailed it. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, this isn't even a contest. So Tom, do you want to tell us what you think of the potato salads? And so again, he tried the potato salads blind. So I'm interested to hear his favorite. So let me make sure you're unmuted, and I'm gonna mute myself so there's no echo.
Okay, how we doing? Honored to be here tonight, and I'm glad I wasn't embarrassed to an international audience that I got the mayonnaises right. So mayonnaise goes big history in my family. My family's from Philadelphia, which is the birthplace of commercial mayonnaise in the United States. Mrs. Schleur's in 1907. So it was. So if you're taking notes, it's Mrs. Schleur's, then Hellman's, then Duke's, then Kewpie in 1925. So, so there you go. When it comes to potato salad, it's really close in this case because you have so many other flavors. You put anchovies in this, or there's ham in yours, correct? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So the smokiness of that kind of takes away some of the sharpness that some of the mayonnaise should bring to it. So all of these would be fine. I would accept these at any picnic. So if I had to pick one, let's see. I'm gonna take one more shot. I'm gonna take one more shot. And everybody can watch me eat. Yeah, it's really close. It's really close to this here. I would have to go, if I had to pick one, I mean, it's really close because there's so many other flavors they combine really well together. If I had to go with one, it's the final one.
The final one, okay. So let's see which one he likes the
See
best.
if I'm embarrassed here.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, the Dukes?
It's Dukes!
How about that? How about that?
Melissa wins!
There you go. Like I said, it's really close.
What was your close second?
I'll be honest with you, there's shades of difference. I had trouble picking one period because I think that like the smokiness of the ham really kind of indistinguishes the mayonnaise here. So it's kind of like close your eyes and point, which is what I did. So that's that. So I couldn't pick.
So the one in the middle was QB.
Mm-hmm.
And
Hellman's was the first. Yeah, I was going between 1 and 3. But I said it's really close. But blind, I got it and I nailed it. So, well, you can tell because Duke's is a little more acidic. Hellman's it's much more mellow. And with Kewpie, yeah, the egg yolk really comes through there. So, and if you're really a mayonnaise snob, I have a couple chef friends who are. They use Duke's for tomato sandwiches and Hellman's for everything else because of the balance there. So when it comes to potato salad, it's an open field.
So that's really interesting. So Duke's for tomato salad, you said?
Tomato sandwiches, which if you live in the South, your summers are spent by eating tomato sandwiches.
White bread also.
That's it. No artisan loaf. You're just going for the Wonder Bread and slab. Yep, that's exactly what you're doing.
Yep.
Well, I am very grateful to you, Tom. There have been many comments and everyone's amazed that you are such a genius about mayonnaise. And I'm so glad that I have you as my special friend. So thank you for being here. That was really, really fun. I am, of course, partial to the Kewpie as well. I like the richness of it. I think there's something pretty delicious. And I'll point out, if you hadn't read the recipe or if you noticed in the video, there's a secret ingredient of a little bit of cream cheese, which also adds to the decadence of this. Some Americans use sour cream in their potato salad, but I think that the cream cheese is a really amazing little addition that adds to the richness. So, chef. 素晴らしい。本当にありがとうございました。
So this recipe is from my mom.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah, this is a family recipe. Yeah. Yeah, I asked him actually if this was a family recipe, and he said the addition of anchovies and the cream cheese are what his mother did. So that's not necessarily common in Japanese potato salad.
I was interested in that because I saw you use the whole anchovies. And when I made mine, I actually bought anchovy paste and used a little bit of anchovy paste instead because I wanted to make sure that it was really mixed well. But yeah, that was really, I'm sure really nice, high quality, fresh anchovies would make an amazing difference in that. So I want to open it up to more questions. I think I've had a notification. Ida, I think Bernice Markopoulos has raised her hand at least once. I'm not sure if she has a question.
Yeah, sure. I'm going to let her take it away then. Bernice? Let's try to unmute. There you go. Did you have a question for us?
No, there wasn't a question. We raised our hand because I got 2 golden flakes.
Oh, congratulations.
Not 1, but 2.
2. It's a lucky day today. Thank you, Bernice, for sharing.
We re-poured and we each got a cherry blossom. So
If you look closely, it's something that's really special. You know, I talk about these cherry blossoms frequently with people because it's symbolic to me of the attention to detail in Japanese culture. You know, there are many beverages out there with gold flakes in them, but it's just gold flakes. These are actually stamped cherry blossoms. And there's something very special in that. And when I talk about how sake is produced and teach people about the attention to detail in that process and how much concentration that really must be put into every single step, many people are often amazed. Even the largest breweries in Japan still make their highest grade sakes completely by hand, because there's no way to make high grade sake without using what's called teizukuri, or doing hand making techniques. And so this is the way that sake has been made for a couple thousand years, and I think it's pretty incredible that we still make sake that way today. So hopefully you all are seeing.
Can I add something, Sarah?
Yes, please.
So you mentioned attention to detail, and I'd like to show you the plate of the karaage. I already had one with the momiji. So I'm the one that's going to see this plate, and yet chef still wanted to make it a nice plate, make it presentable to me, and just the attention to detail. This is from our momiji tree right outside, and again, attention to detail. I love it.
Yeah, it's very special. There's a special aspect in Japanese culture of going the extra mile for your customers and for your family, or for people that are close to you, but especially with, in terms of service, to make people feel special. Even just, going to a counter at the airport, they might have a special decoration there that's meant to greet you in a special way, or things like that. So pretty incredible stuff in Japan. So I wanted to open it up at this time to, if there are any other questions in Q&A, Ida, or on the chat that we should get to. Does anybody have anything they'd like to ask Chef Taka?
I didn't see anything earlier, but there were a couple comments, like Noriko said she preferred mayo from Ajinomoto brand. It has a more dense texture and flavor, she said. And Akiko Ando said that we call mayo lovers mayora in Japan, so like a mayoler, but mayo lover, mayora.
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 Oh yeah, sorry, mayo, it's mayo in Japanese.
Yeah, mayora.
Mayora. Yes. So,
But mayora can drink directly like this.
It's too much.
I'm serious. Yeah. Mayora can drink. It's not yes. For mayora, it's drink.
Oh my God.
Please be careful with your health if you're like that.
So, in terms of Japanese food culture, it's also interesting. There was recently a Netflix show about street food, and a lot of people, I think about Japan and Asia and think about street food. But there's actually a lot of laws in Japan that limit true street food. So there's not a lot of street food vendors in Japan. In fact, like when I spoke about the area around Shinjuku Station, these are tiny little restaurants, but they're actual spaces that people go into. But the one time that you really can often find more street food is during certain festivals at different times of year. When you go to temples, a lot of times there will be people making food in little stalls on the street. And there is so much Kewpie mayonnaise because there's so many things that you can get, and you just spread the mayonnaise. They put that on like okonomiyaki as well. So there's like a type of almost like Japanese pancake, but it has like lots of different, like you could put noodles and bacon and scallions and all kinds of stuff inside. And it's extremely tasty. So it's just another kind of a connection in American soul food to Japanese comfort food, I think, is our connection with mayonnaise. So I had to bring it up. Anyway, I wanted. Oh, go ahead,
Sarah. When you were in Japan, did you ever have Japanese pizza with mayonnaise on it?
No, I didn't. I did have Japanese pizza though, but I didn't have mayonnaise on my pizza. But that's what we do here. We put it, we dip the bones in ranch dressing here. We use ranch dressing and we dip the bones in it. That's how we do it.
But in Japan, they'll have pizza with sometimes sweet corn and tuna and Kewpie mayonnaise, and that'll be on the pizza. It's very, very different. It's actually pretty good.
It's so funny. I remember when I was a little girl,
No mayonnaise, American pizza.
we had friends from Japan that were neighbors, and I was a little girl, and they were from Japan and they were living in the United States. This was in Virginia, and my family was invited for dinner, and they made hamburgers for us. And I think they wanted to make American food for us. And I was really shocked because they put peas and carrots in the hamburgers. And I was too young to really know what to do. I think I was like, oh my gosh, there's peas and carrots in my hamburger. And now it sounds amazing. I would love it. I remember it being very tasty and beautifully seasoned. So we have Sachiko Miyagi, I think, on the call today. I hope she is available. I wanted to give her a moment to share with you a little bit about Tipsy. Hi, Sachiko-san. I think you're muted, so make sure you unmute. Tipsy Sake has fast become the #1 go-to for online purchasing for sake in the United States, and it's where everybody ordered sake from. They gave us an amazing bargain on these sakes for today, and they put together a special deal for everyone today. So will you share with us, Sachiko?
Yes, thank you for having us, and thank you for those of you who purchased from us for this special event. It was mouth-watering for sure. I wish I had prepared and cooked like Sarah did. So this is a 10% off site-wide, extended to those of you who were smart enough to stay until the end. He has a Facebook Tipsy Sake Club, and there, if you're able to find us, join, and we give away $25 gift cards every month randomly. Before I started at Tipsy, I started purchasing for my friends and accumulated enough points to buy myself some sake too. So it's really easy, fun way to share the love of sake. And we're in the process of expanding our portfolio. We're still a startup, but trying to do our best, kind of getting all these amazing products to your door. So let us know if you have any questions. If you have any super technical questions that you're going to send us, I might get assigned that question. So,
Sorry, what was the name of the Facebook group again?
Tipsy Sake Club.
There you go, Chris. Tipsy Sake Club.
Tipsy Sake Club.
And
Yes.
I think, Sachiko, if you're on Instagram, you can hashtag and you can say Tipsy Sake, right? Or something for a pairing.
Yes. Instagram is Tipsy Sake. Yes, we do giveaways when you have a sake and food photo. We choose a winner from there as well. So Alabama actually is tricky, where we're not able to ship to certain parts of Alabama. Just so you know, we do have a few states we're not able to ship, like Hawaii and Alaska. And, we're working on it. I think that everybody deserves to have sake at their door. So we will keep you posted, because we're working on getting it to everybody. But yes, thank you for having us as part of your presentation. Please go ahead and use this code. It expires at the end of the month. So it was really good to see some of you that I already know in the attendee list. And thanks for having us.
Thank you,
Kanpai.
Kanpai.
Bye.
So for those of you who aren't familiar, Sake School of America is the leading educating body in the United States. We offer many different certifications, and we do these live events. Our next one that's coming up on the 28th is with Tatsuriki. The actual owner of Honda Shoten is going to be joining us, and we very much hope that you will come and join us. You will also be able to visit this video and others on our new YouTube channel, so please do so. Are there any last questions, Ida-san, or anything?
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and share the results of the poll we did earlier. And as everybody's looking at that, Kewpie is the obvious winner, but as we're looking at that, I'm gonna go ahead and ask some questions that we have. So
Mm-mm.
related to this
I can't
event,
answer.
let's say, what are some of chef's favorite pairings in terms of sake and food?
In US? Okay. Let me say. Salad with Kentucky bourbon.
Oh, that's interesting.
Mm.
Potato, Japanese style potato
Yeah,
salad?
Japanese potato salad and
Kentucky bourbon.
Oh, interesting. I thought you might have said cockney with the bourbon, but
Okay.
all right. And maybe Sarah can answer this one, but
yeah, mm.
possibly Sarah or Chef, but how would the pairing change if your sake was warmed up a little?
So that's very interesting, and it depends a little bit on the sake. But when you warm sake, different acids respond to heating in different ways. So the glutamic acids that help to build umami, as well as succinic acid, which gives sake a savory character, tend to start to shine. They start to be lifted up by the sake being warmed. Whereas some of the acids like lactic acid, which can make the sake have a little bit more of a crisp or sour taste, are reduced. So you find that as sake gets warmer, it seems a little sweeter, and it also seems a little bit more mellow and rich. Those rich sort of savory umami type acids really kind of lift up as the sake is warmed. Many people in the United States are under the impression that only poor quality sake should be warmed. And it's a really sad misunderstanding. There's a lot of very high quality sake that even daiginjo grades that can benefit from being warmed. And so I encourage everybody to experiment with that. The most important thing is to not overheat it. If you heat the sake too much, it actually starts to develop kind of a sour taste that's very unpleasant. So that's why I pointed out that even in Atsukan, it's not much above 122 degrees Fahrenheit. You can do it a little warmer, a little closer to the mid 130s. But when you start getting over 140, you start getting way too hot for sake. So you want to be sort of gentle with it. The other thing that I think is interesting is that because those savory umami notes sort of are highlighted by warm sake, it's one of the reasons why those styles of sake are so good with foods like what we're eating tonight, like the budakukuni, that beautiful sort of richer umami driven food is so delicious with warm sake.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's pretty much it.
Well, guys, thank you so much. I want to extend my thanks again to the Japan America Society for suggesting this. I'm especially grateful to Chef and to Melissa and everyone at the Consulate-General of Japan in Atlanta. We can see just from the food that you're preparing and the delicate, knife work and all of the presentation, everything that we're missing by not being able to gather together in person. And I know that's something that we're really looking forward to as times improve. I can't wait to come and do more things with you live. And I know that my friends with the Japan America Society here in North Carolina, who so greatly appreciate your support, are looking forward to visiting with you in person soon as well. So that's my hope, that very soon we'll have another opportunity to all be together again. Thank you to everybody who spent so much time with us tonight. This was so much fun. I hope you please try the recipes. I can attest they are fantastic. Thank you all so much. Have a wonderful, wonderful evening, and we'll hope to see you again soon. So, minasamá arigatou gozaimashita.
Arigatou gozaimasu.
Night.